All right.
All I got.
Nice. Okay. Welcome to the March 18th Mad River Valley Recreation District Board meeting. Peter, we have in the room, Molly doesn't have her computer open here. She's the only one who's really here. The rest of us are doing the weirdo here but not here hybrid thing. Sarah's here, Laura's here, and I'm here. So everybody else is virtual today. Okay, so we don't have any public here for public comment, and we will move directly to approving the draft minutes for February 18th. Do we have a motion to approve?
Before that, my name is misspelled.
Oops. In the minutes?
Attendees.
Oh, sorry, Doug, that's me.
I'll forgive you this one time.
I was actually just seeing if you're paying attention.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes from February 18th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 18th.
A second? I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it's very exciting to have Luke here with us from far away. Awesome. What is the temp there right now?
It is every day 95 and sunny.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. Well,
So it's a little warm.
you'll actually enjoy having some cooler Vermont weather if you come back. Okay, so moving on to our second agenda item, Moortown, next steps. The next steps, wahoo, Moortown's in.
Yeah, thank you, everybody who, helped spread the word, worked hard. It was so exciting to have a positive vote. Later in the year, we'll work with the Select Board Moortown to get a rep. I've reminded them that our meetings are always open to the public. And now we just have to deal with the Secretary of State to amend our MOU. And I have an email into them and we'll follow that up.
Right, so Bear, I'll touch base with you later to see if you were able to get that into an editable.
Okay.
Because I can do the editing.
Okay.
On that, no problem. So, and then also with regard to Moortown, technically they don't come in until 2026. Thinking about onboarding a potential representative, hopefully they, I think I would recommend that they get a representative sooner than our January meeting. For two reasons, and I'd love some thoughts on this with regard to onboarding. Certainly we would want a rep to come to a couple of meetings. They wouldn't necessarily have a vote, but to kind of get into the flow. We're going to be talking about formulating a new strategic plan, and we'll probably be doing that hopefully in the next 3 to 4 months before we get into the grant cycle. It would be nice to have somebody, hopefully a rep, be here. They may not have a vote, but I'd love to have input. And then the only question is a timing one. Am I correct that this November, they will actually be eligible for grants? Should we have a non-voting rep from Moortown attend or not?
Well, those
Yeah.
meetings are open to the public anyway.
So they could speak on behalf of.
I think so. I mean, I think the more welcoming and open we are, the better. And we had said all along that they'd be eligible for grants, even though grant has to be in November before the January when they become formally a member.
So certainly a representative could join us merely as a member of the public. But if we do something, when we talk about the strategic plan and how we might proceed as a board in the next visioning steps, we should think about whether we want to have a Moortown rep non-voting attend those. So from anyone who is relatively new, nobody is really relatively new anymore. What a stable board right now. But if there's anything else you can think of in terms of helping more towns on board.
I have two thoughts. I think one would be to approach Chris Stevenson directly. He's been really integral to the Moortown Rec Board. He's also integrated with CRV and Stark Mountain and a lot of other groups. I know he often has been saying that he doesn't have like a lot more bandwidth for these types of projects, but it might be, I think he would just be a helpful liaison, even if he doesn't want to serve like full term or doesn't want a position at some point in time, like for him just to attend and to help with that process, I think would be a real asset. And then the second idea would be I think we should really be actively promoting the grant cycle in Moortown this upcoming year so that they see the visible representation of their vote to like support and join the rec district. So not to say that we're going to do more than we would in other towns, but we just really want to make sure that they are aware of the upcoming grant cycle. And that way they, like any organizations or people, have as much opportunity as everybody else that maybe has more awareness of that process.
So being proactive and communicating about the grant cycle. Great.
And I usually do a newspaper article, so I could just do that a little bit earlier and obviously say, and with Moortown as a new member, you know, could highlight it there, but yeah, we'll do that.
And that could just be like word of mouth. It could just be like, you know, putting that out to connections that we have in the Moortown community saying, hey, like there is a grant that's coming up. Like we really encourage you to apply. As you know, Moortown voted to join the district, and now these funds are available for organizations and projects in your town. And even that, I think that gesture would go a long way if sort of we plant that seed with some of the folks in town.
Can the Moortown Recreation Committee submit a grant request? I mean, I would assume that they could, right?
Yeah, the Warren Rec Committee submitted a grant.
Guys, and
Yeah.
and we gave it to them.
Yeah. So
What was that for?
I'm just laughing because my husband Bob Meany is the head of that.
The Warren.
Warren. It
Right,
was
right.
to,
It was for Brooksfield.
yeah, Brooksfield, move a shed.
So they may be that the rec committee will,
Yeah.
the Moortown Rec Committee is a good vehicle to get information out. Great. Okay, anything else on Yahoo Moortown?
Just a quick couple of clarifications. The board member will be a full voting member, right?
Correct.
Right.
And is that a 3-year term or a 1-year term?
It'll be a 3-year because they'll have to come on, not as an at-large, but as a full representative.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Easement for Kingsbury, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it. I can pull it up. The easement went back and forth between our attorney and TJ's attorney. Our attorney was responsive to my concerns about more specificity. So do you want to take a look at that, or are you guys comfortable with it? Let's see if I can pull that right up. Hang on. There it is. So there were just a couple of changes from the draft that you had already seen. I went back and forth with Sheila about the nomenclature for the Mad River Valley Recreation District. We're not a nonprofit corporation. We are a union municipal corporation. And our attorney agreed with that. And then I asked for more specificity within the text about location and making sure that that the easement is specific to a wastewater system, which is what the first paragraph. It's a 20-foot wide right-of-way easement for the installation, maintenance, and repair of a sewer line. So that is specific. Any comments? I don't know that, unless you have comments, I think I don't think we necessarily need to revote on this easement.
On a related note, I just picked up the mail today and there is, as in a butter, there's we've been notified, about a meeting on Tuesday, March 25th, which is next Tuesday at 7 o'clock to discuss this project.
And just FYI, Bear has been on the front lines in communicating with the Mad River Park Committee regarding our decision to grant an easement. She's gonna walk the land, is that right?
Well, I'm
Leah?
just gonna visit with TJ, so I have a visual reference of exactly where the line is gonna go.
We want to make sure that there is no conflict with the irrigation line that is already existing. TJ is saying, all of the permitting is taking longer. He doesn't think they're even gonna get started in 2025. Doesn't think it's gonna actually happen until next year. So I will let the parties, our attorneys know that we're good on the easement. Doug, if by any chance you end up getting a bill from Nick Lowe at Tarrant, let me know. It may be that they're just sending it directly to TJ, because TJ agreed to pay our attorney's fee.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But just in case, if something pops up, you'll know that that's where that came from, and we'll pass that along to TJ. Okay, boom, done. All right, it is time to our annual elections as we cycle through. Corey is up as an appointed for Facein for a 3-year, Leah and Gina at large, and Luke at large. So we'll go through everybody else before we get to you, Luke. Let us know what your thoughts are. So, and we've communicated with everyone, and everyone wants to re-up. Right, Luke? The pressure is on. So can anybody move to renew Corey Ayote's appointed term of office for Facein for 3 years? And we don't move.
I'll make a motion to renew Corey's term on the board for 3 years
Representative.
as a representative for Facein.
I'll
Hear a
second that. I'll
Okay,
second.
all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Great. Leah for Facein at large, can we have a motion to renew her term as an at-large representative for Facein?
I'll make a motion to renew Leah's term as an at-large member from Facein.
A second, please? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a motion to have Gina Gaddis renewed for an at-large 1-year term for Waitsfield.
I'll make a motion to renew Gina Gady's 1-year term from Waitsfield.
Second?
I'll second it. Bear's
All
really
in favor?
fast to make a move.
Aye.
Right.
Okay. Drum roll.
Yeah, no, my wife and I just talked about it. I will stay on the board. Obviously, I'm away through June. So assuming that works for everybody, I can't guarantee that I can continue to make all of these meetings. So if there are like very specific initiatives that require my attention, I'm happy to be available for that. So yeah.
So when do you come back in June?
To be determined. Right now we're supposed to be back like late June, like June 24th or something like that. But we're looking at maybe moving those dates up. The school year finishes a little bit earlier than we thought, and there's not as much that we have to do to wrap up there. So.
Okay, let us know so that we can just try to hook you in if we need to on a 3-month, once every 3 months.
Hey,
Yep.
quick question for you, Alice and Luke. If we have like an important vote somewhere along the way or some issue we have to vote on, is there a way, if Luke can't attend that particular meeting, is there a way of communicating his vote and us communicating what the vote is about and him communicating his vote back, other than through like the meeting? Like via email or something or text?
It's a good procedural question about whether we can do that by way of like an absentee ballot.
Why don't we amend the MOU to allow that, since we're amending the MOU?
We can't because.
Oh, it has to be voted on by
Yeah.
both towns? Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, I would
Not-
offer, I would offer
Um,
that, like, I am reading the agendas as they show up on a, you know, when Laura sends those out. And so if there's something that seems like you want my opinion or perspective on a particular issue, even if I'm unable to attend, but I'm able to, I could write my perspective on that piece. So like write a paragraph or two about whatever the issue is, so that you at least know my opinion going into the vote. And even if the vote can't count, then at least you would know how I would stand on that issue.
I think that procedurally, that would be great. Luke, thank you. I think that would work in a great way.
Out of curiosity, do we have a minimum number of meetings members need to attend in like a calendar year?
So our,
Or is it subsequently that you can't miss more than 3? I can't
well, you can't miss more than 3.
in a row.
Yeah, in a row. It's not a sum total 3. You can't miss more than 3 in a row. Was that the question?
It's where the question ended, so yes.
Okay.
I just remember that came up with that board member who was here for a short amount of time.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Thank you, Luke. We're really psyched to have you here.
Good news.
Good news.
As always. So I want to do one thing before you leave. Okay.
All good.
So as we're thinking about, we've already gone through our 5-year strategic plan. And over the course of the next, let's say, through September roughly, before we start really kind of diving into grants, we want to rethink our strategic plan. We're not going to hire a firm to do it again. We're going to do it in-house. And without diving in too deep right now, Laura, that was that VORAC
Yeah,
was very helpful. I really encourage people to take a look at what Laura had said. This is.
Hey, Alice?
Yes.
We haven't voted on Luke.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Peter. Would you like to make a motion, Peter?
I move
For Luke
to,
is a 1-year at large for Waitsfield?
I move to renominate Luke for 1 year at large from Waitsfield board membership.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I was so excited and overwhelmed.
and before we close this out totally, don't we have to vote everybody else extend? There's a few other people 1 year that have to get extended.
I think that was it. I looked at it.
But how about the 3-year terms?
No,
They're-
I mean,
they're
I
all
looked,
good?
I looked at
Okay,
all the
good.
terms.
All right,
These
good.
are the
Thanks.
ones that needed to be renewed.
Okay, great.
So I encourage, what I'd like to focus on, just without getting into super deep, so that you can spring there, is a very preliminary brainstorm about things that we might consider as priorities in our strategic plan without getting into too granular. And also a very preliminary about how we might want to tackle doing our strategic plan, whether we want to do a little mini retreat. So my proposal is just to do very quickly this is the teacher thing. Luke, here we go, a whip around. A whip around where we just really quickly go around the room until people are exhausted with preliminary ideas of what you think is important. And it could be something huge, it could be something tiny, it could be a program, it could be policies, and just whip around and anything could be on the table, anything at all. So I'm gonna start because I come back to this again and again. And that is, the importance of really striking the balance between ecological integrity and recreation. And regardless of what the future is organizationally for conservation, recreation, and visioning, I think we could be instrumental. And I would put that as a focus. That would be mine.
I go this way because I want to build on that. I think that it's great, and I think we should look at the grant program about, would we be open to like bigger grants from the Friends? I know that, a lot of their money is federal money, might be getting cut, and so, and they're not the only environmental group in the valley. So I think we have to, look at that as a way to bolster, put our money where our mouth is in terms of this balance, which I think is so important.
Well, if they start to need to move some of the sports out of schools and move them to more community recreation sports, which has been some of the talk of saving money, how does the rec department play a role in that?
So you think, is that particularly at the sort of the elementary, middle school, and then maybe?
They're talking high school level too.
Well, are they?
So like instead of gymnastics being a hardwood sport, this is an example that's being used, it would just be a club sport. So then if there are students who can't, afford to do club sports and they've lost their high school or middle school or elementary sport because it's moved to club, do we have a role in what sports look like if they're not in the schools and funded by the school?
But it's mostly middle school and high school, because right now we
yes.
are,
Yes, you're right. Middle
unless
school,
they start
high school.
cutting the elementary gym teachers, which I guess, that would be.
Well, but
a lot
the
to fund.
busing, right? The busing for alpine skiing happened this year, but that was for
That
middle
was middle school, yeah.
But that
yeah,
could
but
happen for elementary school. So I guess the
Yeah,
bigger
no, you're
context
right,
of
you're right.
funding and education.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I would throw out rec district initiatives that I think Laura has been great in sort of championing, the bike helmets and the swim lessons, and looking for holes in what is offered throughout the community and trying to fill those gaps.
Corey, any thoughts?
So my thought is kind of what Laura was trying to do with the swim program, but I'm thinking like a scholarship for local families or kids that are doing sports that are outside of the valley. Those kind of those niche ones that you just don't really think of. Like if someone does like fencing, or I know I'm just throwing out a sport, but
Luke, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just gonna like maybe take this from a slightly different angle, but we do have the strategic plan that we've been operating under for the past number of years. And I think a helpful activity would be almost like grading ourselves on that strategic plan, like looking at what we generated last time and assessing how we did at addressing each of those different needs that we thought we had, determine whether or not those are still priorities. Like a specific area of that strategic plan was events, and that was some of the impetus for like the Funathon that we tried to host a couple of years ago. And so like really trying to determine how much of that is still applicable. Are those still initiatives that we want to pursue and just haven't had the bandwidth, or are they things that were ideas at one point in time and we're ready to move on into different areas and consider other projects?
Peter?
We'll probably touch on this a little bit later in the meeting, but I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with our off-cycle grant concept. It doesn't seem to be as formalized, obviously, as our real grant process. I'd like to see maybe the guidelines tightened up a little bit on that, just so we know exactly what that money can be or should be attributed to, rather than just sort of a fly-by-night, which it seems to me it's a little bit that scenario now. So tighten that up a little bit.
Doug?
Um, I think we should revisit the whole idea around centralizing the registration process for all the various sports, and does that happen through us?
I'm gonna throw out, let's see. Here's another whip around for me. I have two more. Thinking about how we can more actively engage local students, whether it's at the middle school or high school level. And whatever work that we are doing, maybe we think about having a non-voting representative from the high school. But I'm keen on the idea of educating local kids in the work that we do, and as it relates to conservation, because they'll inherit this work. And I'd love to know what their thoughts are about climate resiliency. So I would love to have more opportunities to engage local kids, local high school kids. Anybody else? Thoughts?
I'd like to, we still have a chunk of change unaccounted for that coming back, that's seed money from VORAC, approximately $30,000. And so an e-bike lending program or something like that, or there are kayaks and paddles and some other equipment that the path has gotten for their camps. And supposedly there was gonna be a lending program here at Waite House. And I'd like to, learn more about what's happening with that and then maybe add to it in some way.
So not maybe even beyond the idea of e-bikes, but a lending program.
And, it happens in Middlebury through libraries, cause they have, they have that kind of thing. And our libraries in the Valley are so cool and so open to things that are good for the community that I think there's potential.
Anyone else? Other thoughts?
Just a quick one. The way that Laura, you're involved with the path and then all the various organizations you work through with CRV. Sometimes I think it would be nice if I don't know, this isn't really what I want to have, I'm just putting out there, each board member went to one board meeting of the organizations that we fund, so that we had, maybe it's not a board meeting, but an annual meeting, because you have such an intricate knowledge. And then I think that kind of lends support for these organizations that you know so well, and you foster that relationship. Sometimes I think it would be nice if we had more of an intimate relationship with people, especially that we grant every year. It came up today, Justin, at the last BKL got up and said and thanked the district for providing money so that we can keep kids skiing and stuff. And I kind of wanted to chime in and be well, then that relationship. Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea, because I actually primarily know the executive director, and it's only what that person is telling me. I've never been to any of those board meetings. So I think a lot more happens in the tone, and we could just all learn and, become better partners to them. It's a good idea.
Great. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Luke?
Yeah, a couple things. I can help that the idea of the lending library, that's something that Misha and I were spitballing around, specifically around the kayaks, but it's been an idea with the repurposing of the Waite building, and sort of the initiatives that have come around there. It may or may not have that much support from the town of Waitsfield or the historic district, but there have been some discussions about what it would be like to have a community outdoor gear library, or even tool libraries, or things that wouldn't necessarily fall under the parameters of recreation, but would be a really useful community piece that we could explore. I think something else, this is something that I've thought about with the work that Friends is doing, but with the prospect of more of the federal loans and grant programs drying up as a result of the administration that's in office right now, there is an expected boom in philanthropic giving. And I've also had this thought before, are there, we get money from each of the towns, but what's our capacity to do grant writing for things like VOREC? I mean, obviously Laura was integral with that, but are there other grant opportunities that we can look towards with our ability, or maybe with Laura's time or with some of our board members' time, to pursue grants that would allow us to build new programs or support new upstart initiatives? I don't know what's going to be there, but it might be worth looking into.
Anybody else?
Yeah, that follows with something I was thinking about as kind of an, after we go through the priorities in our strategic plan, for me to then look for grants for, if we do have any big dreams, then would we go after another VORAC grant, or would we help one of our partners, the Skadium or the skate park or whoever, raise a chunk of money, like we did for the dog park, like the mini capital campaign we did to get the irrigation system, just use our capacity to help. So.
And what I have, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the strategic plan that Laura shared, and this comes from VORAC. Is that right?
I think, yes, but I think it's the whole state. I think it's state.
It's
Wide.
statewide.
Yeah.
So it's worth taking a look at as a place for some inspiration and thinking about how well we as an organization align with this particular vision. And I've skimmed it, but it's worth taking a look at. And this center column of wellness, I think we tend to think about our work not primarily with regard to supporting infrastructure, physical things. Those are in some ways easier to award grants to. And my educator's mindset and thinking about involving high school, the center column on wellness and thinking about strengthening connections between people working in health and wellness, people working in education, people working in outdoor recreation. I would love to, in addition to us building relationships with those who are stewards of the environment, building relationships with people in the health and wellness community, and thinking about maybe, there are opportunities, maybe we could do some like wellness seminars that connect outdoor recreation with wellness. Any other, just even if it's off the wall, the swimming pool. We still want the swimming pool.
Oh, we can dream about the rec center with the pool and the climbing wall.
Yeah,
Put that on the
I'm
list.
still trying to get the roof over, and this is just sort of a way to kind of begin thinking actively without getting too granular about possibilities. I do encourage everyone to take a look at this. We can send this out as a separate email, so it has a special place. And then, are we sort of exhausted on our whip around? Anything else?
I think Laura already sent out that Vermont.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. So bookmark it, hold on to it, take a look at it. It really aligning and thinking about what Luke is saying with regard to grants. I'm guessing that being more tightly aligned with this vision may help us access other grants in Vermont. I'm not sure that the federal grants are going to dry up, particularly with any program that has the word equity in it, unfortunately, in a strange way. But Vermont is going, will hopefully be a good supporter of these principles, clearly. So just a quick question to everyone about how you would like us to tackle this strategic planning, visioning. We could, there are a variety of ways we can chunk it out through meetings. Maybe that is a good place to start. but it may be a little bit too broken up. Do we want to start with some of our own meetings? Do we want to think about a little mini retreat? I don't necessarily mean like going away.
To the pavilion.
To the pavilion. You can all come over to Maine. With me, with us. But any thoughts about how you'd like, oh, no, I know where we're going. Luke already knows where we're going. There's a grant for that, isn't that right? So any thoughts about how we might, as a tactic, tackle this? Any preliminary feelings?
I have two thoughts. One, just to take a back step, just to put this in there, but I think like looking specifically at areas of like some of the, you mentioned equity, but even like stewardship or economic development, those components of the strategic plan, I think we could maybe think about strategic partnerships, like thinking not only within the Valley with the different groups that we typically partner with, but looking at like inclusivity, looking at, because such a big portion of our money goes towards things that are used both by residents and non-residents alike. Like how do we make the most welcoming and inclusive environment that we can? And what ways might we look to try to build some of those partnerships and gateways for people that might not be in the Mad River Valley currently, but might benefit from enjoying some of what the Valley has to offer. I think that will probably align pretty well with a lot of what Vermont is aiming to do with future VOREC money. Looking at sort of attacking the strategic plan, I personally am a fan of like at least dedicating a couple of like 3 hours, if we can find time for something like a retreat. I think that like allows for people to sort of focus more attention on that when it's like at the end of a day in the place of a normal meeting. I don't know that it always gets the same level of attention from folks, or maybe I'm just speaking for myself. So I would be a fan of that. And I think like finding an off-site, somewhere that's a little bit different, maybe we can have, there's a great room at Mount Ellen that I've used with the Bear Initiative that could potentially be accessed by us, or like they're just kind of thinking of like how we can go somewhere different and think big and strategically about what initiatives really matter most to people in the Valley.
How about Jamaica?
Costa Rica. There's a grant for that. I know there is. And I'm curious if, I don't know, I mean, whether, I tend to agree with you, Luke, that when we really, instead of attacking something, we can start with some of the whip around general ideas, but piecemeal stays piecemeal until we really do the hard work of assembling. And that requires some dedicated energy and focus. And so, whether we think about a facilitator, I don't know. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's entirely up to us to facilitate ourselves, to throw that out as an idea.
I think a retreat would be great. I'm just envisioning, okay, everybody's willing to give up half of a Saturday or half of a Sunday, right? That's when it has to be. And we're coming up on spring and summer. I mean, it's fine with me. Part of my job, I'll make it happen. But so I'm thinking, are there one or two pieces that we could do in upcoming meetings? And it seems like that analysis of how well or lacking we were in achieving the goals from the past strategic plan would be a good, like, you could break that off, and that could be something we do over either in one meeting upcoming or in 2 meetings this spring. And is there anything else like that we could just chunk off so that then we have the retreat? But it's hard for me to envision us all figuring out 2 different days this spring, summer for a retreat. I mean, again, I'm not at all opposed. It's just people's vacations and commitments and all that.
I don't think we could even, I think it would be ambitious to think that we would just go to a 3-hour retreat that is enticing somewhere, with a meal, without having done preliminary work that leads in to it, which includes, reflecting on the past.
And another easy to pull apart thing ahead would be to look at this, the state's thing, and have comments about, ideas that you definitely want in our strategic plan or things you react to. And maybe I can find, like, I'll ask like the city of Burlington. I mean, Cindy Wright is a friend of mine through networking stuff, and I'm sure they have a great strategic plan, so, I mean, they're very different than we are because they're so big and they run their own programs. But, even looking at Waterbury's, whatever, you will get ideas.
It would seem like maybe even breaking up into small groups or having like 2 or 3 people look at several different strategic plans from different rec districts or the VOREC one, and just sort of like analyzing what aspects fit our community, what aspects don't, like what things resonate with us, and what, maybe is built for a different community. And, I don't really know Katerina that well, but I wonder if, she might be willing to, like, if we're thinking about a facilitator, but not wanting to hire like a consultant, maybe there's a way that we can bring in someone who is a director of a nearby program, or I don't know anybody over in Bristol, but I know they have a pretty substantial Rex program. And maybe we can bring a person like that, who's just like an outside resource that can guide us through that process. Just an idea.
I think that's a great idea. And I actually know it's Meredith in Bristol, and she used to live in the Valley. And Kat used to live in the Valley, obviously. And she's a friend of mine. I mean, so I think we have some good options. So I think that's a great idea.
So I actually think that starting with Luke's suggestion that we kind of take a thumb on the pulse of what we've done, look at our past strategic plan, and then make some decisions based on that, look at the states, and then we can think about anything else that we want to chunk out before we really get into a real head down 3-hour retreat.
Great. And I'll look around. So we, on our website is our strategic plan. That was the formal one that went from like 2018 to 2023. And then we did some work. I think there's a page or 2 document. It was kind of, we put a lot of thought into it. If some of you will remember this, when I think it was when Liza, right before you became the chair, Alice, and it was what we do in these next couple of years, which, we said because of the VOREC grant, we really didn't have the capacity to do much more. So it was just when that ended. So this is a nice dovetail because that's ending. But I think there is a document that I could send around. But you can start anytime you want by looking on the website.
Great. Okay, any other thoughts, just as a preliminary, thinking about revisiting vision? Okay, so we'll move on then to Laura's executive director report.
There you go.
Is this a good time?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks all.
Yeah. So I copied you guys. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. It was just today. I had been in conversation with Allison and Bear about the fact that the swim initiative, we really only had 2 high school instructors like people, and transportation was hard. We don't have enough volunteers with parents. And once we figured out this Waterbury option, we just can't pull it off this spring. So I sent a note to all involved, saying that we'll continue to research, but encouraging them to sign up their 2nd graders for the Waterbury program. Waterbury added a 3rd session, which is March 30th to April 27th minus April 20th. So it's Sundays at Sharp. April 20th is the first Saturday of the vacation week. So that was why they're skipping that. But anyway, so far 10 kids have signed up for that. So, and Kat in Waterbury is excited about it. They may add another class because one of the levels got filled. So that could be a real win-win. And they do a lot of summer swim classes as well, and some of them are at 5 p.m. The biggest thing with, the swim initiative is, I really want kids whose families, both parents are working and don't have a lot of flexibility to join in. And so I don't love, just only having the parents who can drive of a certain day. It's only those kids. So I think I did ask, and I'd love more feedback about how families where both parents are working, how they care for their kids in the summer. I mean, all I know is what my family did. One of us had to be flexible and help, or, you sent the kids to camps, but again, that's a economically, it's a stressful thing for families. So ideally, I mean, I would love to see if we could go back to the administrators of the elementary schools and say, hey, could we tag it onto the front or the end of the ski program, 5 weeks during the school day? Because that's originally the idea that I had that worked, 15, 20 years ago, and everybody has the opportunity to attend because they're at school.
So you mean after, you're not talking about it actually being part of the same day as the ski program?
No.
That's
Right, I'm saying like,
okay.
it's the 10 weeks for ski, either this side of it or this side of it. The transportation is set up, they've got a bunch of volunteers. It would be a separate volunteer gig, but the transportation was that, and then finding the instructors was hard. And, with more time to work on finding instructors, there was one gal who was gonna take a class, but wasn't offered in March, so it wasn't gonna work. So I think we could cultivate some people. So, I'm glad that we're sending kids to the Waterbury program, and I think there'll be even more signups when the note I sent out today goes to the parents. So, any questions on that, on the swim update?
No.
Okey-doke. The other thing, I have been asked, the Warren boat and bike sale is April 12th, and the PTO asked me if I would sell bike helmets there. I said maybe. So I want to hear the folks at UVM are telling me whether or not we could get helmets in time for Saturday, April 12th. And I also have an email into the bike lights, which I sold 70 of them, which are pretty popular. And the idea would be, if you have to buy these things outright, you can return the helmet, so it's not a full commitment. You can't really return the bike lights, but you'll sell them eventually. So if we pull this together for April 12th, then if we have any left over, it could be for the farmer's market or some other event, right? So, I think it would be really good for us to have a presence at that sale. I think I can do it. I have a personal situation that I'm going to be heading out of town to help a friend, but I don't know when. But I think it might be available. You did it last year for us, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, I could cover a couple of hours.
Okay. Yeah, it's 9 to 1, so it's so I think we could find volunteers. You guys have never needed volunteers, so thank you. But I think it would be a good thing for us to have a presence at.
So we don't know, we would purchase helmets in advance, is that right? How does that?
Yeah, the bike lights, I think we had to purchase in advance. The helmets we pay for after we sell them, like we order 50. It's not.
Well, I'm just, if we're going to this meeting, try to do something for April 12th, and we need to allocate some funds,
Yeah,
then we need to have a vote on allocating funds to do that. So, and we're not spending as much money on the swim program where we had allocated funds.
and also remember that the funds come back 100%. It's just we're borrowing.
It's a loan.
Pay up front, and the money comes back, so it doesn't hit our bottom line.
So that would be as a motion to borrow funds necessary to purchase helmets and lights, with the understanding that that money would be repaid through the sale.
Correct.
How's that for a motion?
Wishy-washy.
Do we have like some sort of like approximate range we're talking about here, Laura?
Up to, I mean, I wouldn't need more than $1,500 to do bikes that, yeah.
Would that be it? So if we said,
Make it 2,000 because the lights are $30 each, so.
I move to allocate up to $2,000 for the purchase of helmets and bike lights to be sold and then repaid.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Okay, thanks. I'll keep you posted via email if that comes together. They actually have a bunch of helmets in their office at the medical center. So if we don't have enough time to order from their manufacturer, we could probably get quite a few. Thank you. The other thing is I'm in the final phase for the last reimbursement of Borac that I'll be doing later this month. I did get receipts in from the chamber, which is good. I'll check over those. And then there are a few last little expenditures. So I'm in process with that, but it's almost done. I have a lot of work to do the next couple of weeks to have the giant report back to the state, which includes a whole series of deliverables. And I've sent an email out to my Borac partners that certain people are in charge of certain things, but I'm probably responsible for about half of that, and I'm pulling it together. So that'll keep me busy, and that's about it for my executive director report.
Okay, and then our final agenda item is an off-cycle grant request. Technically, it's from the PATH, is that correct? It's kind of a combination of the PATH and Friends.
Yeah, I'll give a little background on where it came out. So CRV 2.0 is going to be quarterly meetings and some priority tasks. So what happened is, there's 15 partners in CRV, half environmental group, all the conservation commissions, Friends, other environmental groups, and then the trails and rec groups. So over the course of our 2.5-year work, we came up with ideas that were important, but they weren't within the scope of the grant deliverables. So we felt like we had, a full agenda finishing up the grant, but CRV was always designed to have a long-lasting impact into the community. And so different groups, we made a list of the things that had come up over time that seemed important, and different groups volunteered for different priorities. And one of them, it's actually a combined priority, which is a code of ethics. I don't know if any of you have ridden at the Kingdom Trails. So they kind of paved the way for this many years ago. They have about 100 landowners, and to keep the landowners happy, they did a ride with gratitude and a code of ethics that, that is a membership-based trail network. So it's different than ours, but there's no reason why we can't have a code of ethics, kind of covers recreation stewardship. It's not only for bike riders, but kind of general. And so, the PATH, the riders, and the Friends said they would work on the code of ethics, and they also wanted to do a video. Because if you go, I'll send this link out, but the Northeast Kingdom Trails Network has a bunch of really cool videos on their homepage, and some of them are very short and address parking or, horseback riding. There's a couple of different things, and then they have one that's this ride gratitude. They have a page where you actually check boxes and you agree to the code of ethics. So that's the background for this project. And the the video production company who did that who is being asked to do the one in the Net River Valley. And the budget is $22,000, 20,000 for the video firm and 2,000 for the Mad River Path to manage the grant. Or not grant, manage the project. They have, I can put up on the screen, they're asking us for $5,000. They're, the chamber's giving them 1,000, the riders are giving 1,000, a lot of, the members of CRB, they're approaching, a lot of them are giving 1,000. So that's what we're being asked in this off-cycle grant. There were a couple of things that I had questions about. I got some of them answered and some not. One was that there was no mention of the code of ethics in the write-up,
Which I have pulled
up on
up.
the screen.
Yep.
And to me, that's really important. I mean, Stewart MRV did a video that's on the Chamber's website, and I don't know if it gets much air, but I know it cost about 10 grand. And so that leads me to say another part is, what is their plan to get people to actually watch it? And will they have really short, like 15 or 30-second clips that can be used on social media? Because the plan is for a 2.5 to 4 minute video. So there's just some practical considerations that I would like more of a commitment to before maybe we vote on this 5,000. But if you want to vote on it tonight, fine. I just feel like it's really important that we nail down that code of ethics, and it's agreed to by all the groups, before the video is filmed, because, then you'd have a dated project if you, do the code of ethics.
What's the video without the code of ethics?
So if you look at the.
Well, this
you
is up on the
can't-
screen.
You'd have to look at the, so quickly, the core objectives, environmental and human history of the watershed, sustainability and biodiversity in outdoor recreation, and gratitude to landowners as stewards. And there's no mention, so I guess if I were to back up and ask about the video, and I'm thinking about the Vermont vision, that statement, which mentions specifically having a stewardship ethic, that I don't see a stewardship ethic, if you want to call it a code of ethics, in here. And I guess I want to back up and say, I don't know if that's for us to dictate in terms of the video. So did the CRB steering committee talk about this and say, this is the content we want? I mean, or is this authorship really kind of runs parallel, but doesn't require the CRV?
Well,
What position are we to dictate content?
well,
Should-
I think our only chance would be now, before we gave them the money, personally. So here's what's happening with CRV, which I hope works, was not my kind of first choice, but it's a very loose organization. There are no actual voting. People have agreed to do certain priority projects. The idea is that they'll bring it back to this group of 14, 15 organizations, which includes us. But whether or not we'd have a real say or they'd listen to I don't know. So we have to, the 3 groups that have taken this project on, they're the leads of this project.
So it's,
The Riders, the Path, and the Friends.
Right.
I mean, my knee-jerk reaction, which is probably pretty unfair, is like, there's way too much money to make a video.
It's a very expensive
I mean, and
company,
especially
yeah.
in the context of what's happening today with people losing grant funds and, it's that I worry there's not gonna, I think your question is a very good one, which is how do we get people to watch this, engage with it, and then follow through on it, which there's not even a code of ethics presented right now. So what are we hoping people, history watershed, thank you to landowners. I don't know, it seems like $5,000 could do a lot of good for something. I don't know that this.
They want to film all the seasons is one thing, but I do think they haven't compared it to any other video company. This is the company that did the one that they like.
It sounds like almost a little bit more of a recreation promotion video, but no, it's not, because it's history, okay.
Well, I mean, it's a mix of things. I mean, I think that I thought it might be best to have two separate projects, Code of Ethics, once that was nailed down, then the video. But I think because they want to film over multiple seasons, they want to start filming, but they didn't ask any local videographers. They haven't put it out to bid. This firm asked for $20,000 to do it, and they said, yes, we'd like to work with you.
So,
Can I,
Yep.
Yeah,
can I just, like, I mean, obviously this is a tricky one because it's the organization I work for when I'm there, but I guess one question is like, is there an imperative for us to make a decision on this sooner rather than later? Or like, could this be considered in our normal grant cycle? That's question one. And question two, when we were approached for supporting VOREC, there was an agreement from, for instance, the Mad River Path and the Mad River Riders, that they would only solicit a certain amount of funds from our organization because we were supporting so much with VOREC. Is this something that we could similarly, push back towards our normal grant cycle, and, give them feedback, say that we support this idea, give them a little bit of time to solidify up the land use ethics, and then like we take it on with all of our other considerations in November, with the understanding that if we give this $5,000 to this initiative, that probably means less money going to some of the other projects or initiatives that they might, prioritize otherwise.
I think that's possible. I think they did not want to ask, they didn't want those three specific groups didn't want to be tagged with this project because exactly what you're saying, they don't want less money when they come to ask us next year. It is a valley-wide thing. We are a valley-wide organization. It does hit the mix of recreation and environmental priorities that we're aiming to do. But I kind of like what you said, that I really think they should, I think they should consider other videographers. I think this is an expensive group, but nobody asked me, right? So, yeah. So, and the other thing, I mean, Eric Friedman at he got a videographer to do this Stewart MRV thing for a lot less than this. That was not over multiple seasons. But we also have a big library of still photos over multiple seasons available to us from the VOREC grant. The photos that were taken, we can use. And I want to have a little bit more say over this code of ethics.
So I think we probably could send a series of questions back that we need to have addressed before we vote on this. I'm amenable to, if we're satisfied with the response to our questions, because we would do this on any grant, right? We would ask questions. How is this, do you have other support? Have you put it out to bid? I mean, all of those are legitimate. I'm looking at their tentative work plan schedule. They wanted to start the contract in February 2025. That's gone. Winter footage collection, March 2025. That's gone. So they've already, it sounds like there's a lot of work that's still going to be pushed off anyway until next year. But I would feel more comfortable posing questions just as we would to any potential grantee. And if we make a quick list of those, and I'm going to align this exactly with the Vermont vision. Is there any integrated stewardship ethic? That's the language that is used in the Vermont vision. And whether you want to, maybe people are heebie-jeebie about calling it a code of ethics, but right now the emphasis to me is primarily on the history and as an educational resource on environmental issues, but carrying it forward in terms of having impact on decision-making in terms of land use. I'm not sure I see that. Is there any intention of including a stewardship ethic that is consistent with what Vermont is looking for in their, it's Vermont, move forward together, Vermont. Let's have this reflect some of those objectives. So is there a code of ethics, if we want to call it a stewardship ethic? How are they planning to get people to watch? We want to
I mean,
make,
have they talked to, if this was sort of inspired by Kingdom Trails Code of Ethics, have they?
Oh, they
spoken to
spent a
them
lot of
about
time.
How
Yeah.
the promotion of that has gone over? What was?
They have spent a lot of time with the people at Kingdom Trails, but I think that's a missed opportunity in this write-up, is saying how, and that's a question we should ask them, how do you plan to get people to watch it? So I did a social marketing class a couple of years ago, and I'm supposed to be going to an all-day seminar free coming up. And I went to that class as well, and there are like a ton of things you can do to get people to watch or buy into it, but they take time and initiative. You know, you have it on your website that people.
On your ticket or?
Yeah, and you have it, you get, well-known people in the community to do it and talk about it. You know, you could put things up at our trailheads, have 12 of the major kiosks have, spaces that you can rotate an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So there's a lot of things you can do, but I haven't heard them talk about that. And I would like to.
right, for a 2.5, 4-minute video. We need to feel confident that there is a plan to have it.
And what other
promoted.
options have been explored for promoting this? Is this the most effective one and that's why you're going this route?
Mhm.
Well,
I have two issues on this. Well, one is more of an internal one. It seems to me that this is basically a tool for promoting, marketing our cause. So that's $5,000 of basically, in my mind, kind of promotional marketing dollars. Question is could we spend that kind of money for that purpose in a better way than this one? And then the other one is that we sort of been touching on it here is there's no mention of any kind of distribution plan. Are they going to take it? Is Misha going to take it to schools and do school presentations in class? We're gonna, I can see, as somebody who's published, several books, and then those books end up in bookstores on bookshelves as like one of many, and they get lost there. I can see this kind of being dumped on websites and backlots of websites, never to be really of any value at all. So I'd love to see like more of a really concrete distribution plan. You mentioned $2,000 for Misha to manage this, and I'm not sure what you meant by that or what management means in this case. But I presume that's probably some sort of distribution plan. I'd like to know.
Which, say that again,
The
Peter?
$2,000.
You said $2,000 for Misha to
As a
manage.
project manager.
What is that money?
Oh, it's just to pay him for his hours when he goes to meetings with the videographer.
Gotcha. Okay, well, again, I think there needs to be a really much more concrete distribution plan.
Would there be other CRV members involved at the same level that Misha is?
If Ira and Bob Kogut have the time, yes,
But there's no money in this for them.
correct. Well, Bob Kogut is a volunteer and Ira didn't ask for money.
So I had that same question. $22,000 is a lot of money for the 2.5-minute video. I may be out of touch with what the real costs are. It could be argued that that $5,000, if we decide to allocate it, goes specifically for the cost of the videographer, not for any of the, project manager of this. But it still leaves us with, are we getting the biggest bang for the buck? If absent a code of ethics, a stewardship ethics section here as a theme and objective, is it advancing what we're interested in? And then I think, Peter, you're right, in this idea of who's gonna watch it? How are you gonna get it out? How are you gonna distribute it? There needs to be a plan for that. And I would like to see, under the circumstances, I would ask this question, a revised, work plan. in
Yeah, and
terms of timing.
so this is not, the idea originated with CRV, but it's being pulled off by Misha and so mostly the path, but the writers and the friends may have some. But it's mostly a path project at this point. It's not a CRV.
Well, see, this is the very loose organization of CRV moving forward.
So
Are we paying you to go to CRV meetings? Or no? Is that on your own time?
No, it's my work time.
It's
Yeah.
Okay, so that's already potentially, I mean, if we want to create a code of ethics, if CRV wants to create a code, we are already, as the rec district, contributing to that. And it seems like an important thing.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm smiling is probably for the past 2.5 years, half of my 24 hours a week have been toward VORAC
Right.
and mostly CRV. So we have put more money than any other organization into.
And that's kind of where I was trying to go
And
with
we've
those
also
questions.
granted a significant
Granted,
amount. So the evolution of this is that the CRV steering committee sat down and over the course of several meetings, established a series of priorities. And then in terms of executing those priorities, they asked, are there champions who want to advance this priority? So instead of having a steering committee of, how many people?
15, 14, 15,
organizations, saying, oh, we're all gonna take this on. People said, well, this is something that's dear to me. We're gonna take this on. So this idea of this video was advanced by the CRV steering committee and supported as a priority. And it happens that the riders, the path, and friends are the champions of this particular project.
Yeah. And has up to this point, okay, but we've already talked about separating out the 2000s. We don't need to ad nauseam.
And I'll just say, like, there are other, like, another project, and I probably should have put this in my executive director report. Another one of those priorities was a road show about CRV that Ira and I are championing, and Sam Robinson is gonna help us develop the slides for it. But we're gonna hopefully go to, 15 or so organizations, the select boards, the planning districts, the conservation commissions, Rotary, a couple other groups. And we're gonna talk about what CRV accomplished and what CRV 2.0, this next future bit, will be, right? So, I felt like that was an important project for me to be involved in because of all we've done and because it's square in the middle of our space, right? And there was another one that I said I would be involved with, trying to find funding to finish wildlife corridor studies.
Right.
Because I felt like, we are wanting that to be a priority. So
in essence, you're committing to CRV 2.0, which means the rec department is supporting, the rec district is supporting this continued work.
Yeah, sure.
Correct. So it seems to me that at the very least, we're not ready to vote on allocating these funds without directing some other questions to the three champion organizations.
And they did, to be clear, they did say, in an email late today, that there would be a code of ethics in there. But it kind of scares me that it's not in this write-up. If you take this write-up and you're working with a videographer about it, I think you have to call it out more specifically. And yeah, so I think.
So I think, you know, if we look at the proposal itself, the overview and the project impact, I think there, you know, in terms of core themes and objectives, we want to know what is the plan to include a code of ethics. We want to see it in the proposal itself, written in, yes?
Yeah,
Okay, in the proposal itself, in terms of the schedule, I'd like to see a revised schedule, given that we're already into March. And then separate from the proposal, it's so, well, I guess it would be a separate section in the proposal, but
distribution
a
plan.
distribution plan.
And then I'd like to ask if they can use any stills from the chamber's recent collection for Vorak, because.
Or you said to even put a bid out there for
And
other.
and
videographers.
to put it out to bid, I mean,
And we did some of these for Bean Crafters, and it was a couple years ago, and I was trying to find the price, but we had them traveling to New York and all over I feel like they were like a couple $1,000s for a foreman, and they're nice. So I do, I mean, that's a while ago. It's a different project. I understand all that. I think it's worth that question though, Laura.
yeah,
Question for you, Laura, and Alice, maybe you know it, just sort of off the cup or whatever, off the whatever it is. As a municipal organization, are we in some ways required to deal with people who put things out to bid?
I don't think there's anything in our, I mean, it's best practices well, I'll tell you this, in the Vorak big state grant, if anything was more than 25,000, you had to put it out to bid.
So usually in those big grants, there's a threshold.
Yeah, right.
And this certainly is.
It's just a common, I think it's a common sense thing, plus, there are local videographers, I don't know if,
I think it's a common sense thing too. I just didn't know if there was a legal requirement anywhere.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
So it seems like moving forward, Laura and I have both been making notes, Corey, we'll have it in the minutes, that it makes sense to send out, Laura, a Google Doc to everybody on the board with our questions. And if there are any additions or thoughts, to reply within a week while it's still fresh. Does that make sense? And then we can get this off to Misha. We're not saying no. It's just, as we would with any grantee, we have questions.
Yeah.
Before approving.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on this topic?
One more short question. Off-cycle grants, do we ask them to fill out a grant application?
This is what Peter's talking about. Exactly. Is this a way to, if we get into a regular habit of doing off-cycle grants and organizations kind of are aware of those, because we're certainly going to publicize that we do that. Is that a way to kind of avoid the whole grant process? And I think that was part of Peter's
Strategic
observation,
plan.
saying
Right.
we need to tighten that up.
Okay. Yeah, right.
I mean, I think it's I've been here 4 years, we haven't had an off-cycle grant.
We funded it, I mean, we have, like the vests and things
Yeah,
like
but that was in a regular,
No,
No,
that was off cycle, that was definitely off cycle.
during the pandemic, yeah. Anyway, but we hardly ever do them. I feel like making them do an application now after I'd rather have them make this.
I was
a better
just curious
proposal. But I
if we
think
had
you're
ever
right.
done.
That, I mean, if there was a nefarious, if somebody was like, oh man, I don't feel like, doing that application, I'll just ask them off cycle. We don't want that to happen, right?
I think we've looked at oftentimes more when it has been our own initiative
Yeah,
that we say
Right.
we want to fund this program.
yeah,
So, so I think that's where we should go, get some more answers, and then we'll pick this up again in April. And by the way, our meeting in April is pretty early, right? It's the 15th. and it does not overlap school break. Am I correct about that?
Yes, you are.
Okay, anything else on this topic? This agenda item? Any other business?
Yeah, Corey, what's your daughter's name?
Lucy,
Hey, Lucy.
can you say hi?
There's somebody else joining us. Important, take your daughter to work evening, yeah.
Exactly.
Yay.
Hey, so I have one other piece of business.
Yep,
I don't know if this is legit or not. Do we get our does our domain? I got a bill for our domain, mrvrd.org, $289 from Domain Networks.
I don't think, no. I know, I get one of those every year.
Okay.
No, we get our domain from, not Squarespace, it's not, I think it's Bluehost.
Okay. I will recycle.
Yeah, well, take a picture of it and text it to me if you would, or email it to me. Because
Okay.
I just want to be sure, but it is, and I have to say, I have been getting so many scam emails about renewing Bluehost and yada, 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 and I mean, almost once a week, I get something that looks so legit, but the sender is not right, and I look back to my other correspondence, so it's
Yeah.
all tricky.
Okay. Luke, it was so nice to see you.
Is he all tan?
Yeah.
He's got a nice,
Nice to
you
see
know,
you all.
je ne sais quoi glow about him.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
So it's so great for you to, thank you, Luca. We're psyched that you're going to stay on. Awesome.
Yeah, it's
Really
great.
Awesome. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy
Lucy,
the.
did you
the
find your
warm
hat?
weather Tomorrow.
Was
Lucy,
that a
did you
question?
find your hat?
No, we did not find her hat.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Such a bummer.
All right, what happened to your hat? Do you throw it out the window?
Ah,
All right. Good luck.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.